The military maneuver unfolding in the Caribbean is far more than a simple counter-narcotics mission. It is a textbook example of a multifaceted geopolitical masterstroke orchestrated by Trump, designed to solve several critical, interlocking global problems simultaneously. This operation, officially dubbed Operation Southern Spear, is a decisive act of intervention where the publicly stated goal, the war on narco-terrorism and the $50 million bounty on Nicolas Maduro's head, serves as a convenient and legally expedient disguise for the true strategic objectives: regime change in Caracas and the subsequent acquisition of control over Venezuela's colossal oil reserves. This is FPV Explainer, where we break down the most fascinating stories in drone warfare, global affairs, and US domestic politics. If you're enjoying this deep dive, hit the like button, subscribe, and drop a comment telling us what topic you want to see next. Your feedback shapes our future videos and keeps us bringing you clear, detailed analysis from the front lines. Also, please watch this video to the very end, even if you play it in the background without sound, as your continuous viewing is critical to help promote the truth about the war. The operation's timing and structure confirm that the primary target is the economic prize. Venezuela holds the largest proven oil reserves in the world, a resource that has been locked away from the global market due to the political instability and mismanagement of the Maduro regime. The sudden release of this vast, untapped supply is a strategic imperative that achieves three crucial outcomes. Firstly, it secures immense energy resources for American consumption and corporate interests. Secondly, it is a direct, calculated financial strike against Vladimir Putin. By flooding the global market with Venezuelan crude, the US would inevitably drive down world oil prices, devastating the primary revenue stream funding Putin's war effort in Ukraine. This transforms a regional security operation into a critical economic offensive against a major rival. The third goal, geopolitical prestige, is achieved by demonstrating the US's willingness to enforce its will in its own hemisphere, reclaiming the nation's status as the global policeman. The legal framework of the operation is equally revealing. The Trump administration has designated Maduro as a narco-terrorist, leveraging the Patriot Act to create a legal basis for military action without the necessity of securing a lengthy, politically divisive congressional declaration of war. This maneuver highlights the urgency and the high stakes involved. The operational reality, confirmed by the deployment of the massive USS Gerald R carrier strike group and the specialized MV Ocean Trader for Special Forces, is far beyond simple counter-drug patrols. It signals a readiness for a full-scale intervention designed to achieve a swift regime decapitation, a surgical operation to capture or eliminate Maduro. The ultimate goal is to seize the critical oil infrastructure and install a transitional government, thus solving both a domestic political problem and a massive geopolitical one in a single decisive stroke.
We have established the geopolitical necessity of the Operation Southern Spear to secure Venezuela's oil and target Putin's finances. Now we confront the raw, terrifying military power amassed by Trump, a massive deployment that serves as a demonstration of strength designed to reclaim the status of the global policeman and enforce its will through an overwhelming surgical strike. The scale of this military concentration is unprecedented in the Western Hemisphere since the 1990s. This is not a low-level counter-narcotics patrol. This is a full-spectrum, high-intensity invasion task force. The core of this power projection is the USS Gerald R. Carrier Strike Group, the newest and most advanced aircraft carrier in the world. The presence of the Ford carrying its full complement of fighter jets, electronic warfare aircraft, and supported by multiple missile-equipped destroyers is intended to establish instant and absolute air dominance over Venezuela. The message is clear. The U.S. is not asking for permission. It is preparing to seize control of the battlefield by force. The operation is built around the decapitation doctrine, a strategy designed to achieve political goals with maximum speed and minimum ground exposure. The goal is to avoid the disaster of a long, costly occupation by neutralizing the central nerve system of the regime. The attack is anticipated to unfold in two devastatingly swift phases. The first phase is suppression and shock. The operation will commence with a massive barrage of precision cruise missiles launched from destroyers and stealth F-35 fighters deployed from the carrier. The non-negotiable targets are those necessary to blind and cripple the Venezuelan military. All remaining Russian-supplied S-300 air defense sites, radar installations, communication hubs, and known command and control bunkers. The sheer weight of this initial aerial assault, backed by the strategic presence of B-52 bombers nearby, is designed to ensure that air superiority is seized within the critical first hours, preventing any organized military counter-response. The second phase is the surgical strike. Immediately following the aerial bombardment, specialized forces operating covertly from assets like the MV Ocean Trader, the dedicated special operations vessel, will be tasked with the ultimate mission of capturing or eliminating Nicolas Maduro and his most loyal inner circle. This surgical strike is intended to create an instant political vacuum, causing the military's loyalty to fracture and leading to the immediate collapse of the command structure. The strategic importance of this ground component is paramount. It prevents the conflict from devolving into a protracted guerrilla war, enabling the quick seizure of the nation's critical oil infrastructure and the installation of a compliant transitional government. The entire deployment is a high-stakes demonstration that the U.S. will use overwhelming force to enforce its will and reclaim its status as the regional arbiter.
We have established the overwhelming military readiness to execute the decapitation doctrine in Venezuela. However, the most profound, global-reaching consequence of this operation lies not in Caracas, but in Moscow. A successful intervention leading to the rapid removal of Nicolas Maduro is an immediate and calculated financial knockout punch to Vladimir Putin's war economy, designed to cut the Kremlin's budget at its most critical juncture. The entire logic of this operation is based on economic warfare. Venezuela holds the world's largest proven oil reserves, an immense, untapped resource currently locked away from the global market due to political chaos and sanctions. The success of the U.S. operation would instantly unlock this supply, allowing American and allied companies to stabilize the production and inject a massive, immediate surplus of crude onto the world stage. This sudden surge in global supply would fundamentally alter the market balance, inevitably leading to a sharp, sustained collapse in world oil prices. For Putin, whose entire domestic stability and military budget are predicated on maintaining high oil revenues, this price collapse would be a catastrophic, unrecoverable financial shock. Russia has endured international sanctions and the loss of its European market, but it has sustained its war effort by maximizing profits from its remaining customers in the East, primarily India and China. When Venezuelan crude floods the market, its lower price and unencumbered availability will instantly make Russian crude, which is already sold at a discount due to sanctions and incurs massive costs due to the shadow fleet, commercially unviable. The financial domino effect is precise and devastating. The lower global price, coupled with the loss of key buyers who will pivot to the cheaper Venezuelan crude, will drastically compress Russia's oil revenue. This revenue is the singular variable that dictates the length and scope of the war. With oil income collapsing, the Kremlin will instantly lose the means to finance its massive budget deficit, replenish its catastrophic equipment losses, and continue paying the salaries and compensation necessary to maintain its army's loyalty. The war of attrition, which is predicated on outlasting Ukraine, would be rendered financially impossible. The strategic genius of this move, therefore, is its dual purpose. Trump uses the operation not just to secure American energy interests, but to accelerate the strategic insolvency of his primary geopolitical rival. The successful resolution of the Venezuela crisis is the ultimate economic factor guaranteeing the end of the war in Ukraine. It cuts the financial throat of the Russian war machine, proving that the solution to the conflict does not necessarily lie in the trenches of the Donbass, but in the oil fields of South America.
We have analyzed the military and economic factors driving the intervention. Now, we must confront the final, crushing reality for Nicolás Maduro. He is fundamentally and strategically alone. His desperate pleas for military aid from his primary international partners, Putin's Russia, China, and Iran, have been met not with decisive support, but with calculated silence. This systemic geopolitical isolation confirms that the threat of secondary sanctions and the fear of direct confrontation are potent weapons, leaving Maduro strategically naked before an overwhelming military force. Maduro built his regime on a foundational, transactional belief that his years of political allegiance to Moscow and Beijing would be reciprocated with an immediate security guarantee in the face of an external threat. This belief is now being brutally exposed as a diplomatic fallacy. Putin, Maduro's most crucial historical military patron, is crippled by his own ambitions. Bogged down in the costly war in Ukraine, Putin simply lacks the capacity and the strategic reserve to open a second front thousands of miles away in the Western Hemisphere. The Russian military-industrial complex is currently straining to meet its own war demands and cannot spare the modern, functional weapon systems, missile stockpiles, or naval assets required to challenge the formidable U.S. fleet in the Caribbean. Furthermore, Putin cannot afford the political cost. Any direct military intervention in Venezuela would be read as a declaration of war against the U.S. and would lead to an immediate, crippling escalation of sanctions against Moscow, precisely what the Kremlin is struggling to manage. Russia's support is relegated to hollow, symbolic gestures, confirming that the strategic exhaustion imposed by the war in Ukraine has neutered its ability to act globally. The situation with China and Iran mirrors this calculated self-interest. While ideologically aligned, these powers are governed by cold, pragmatic calculus. China's massive global economic strategy would be fatally undermined by engaging in a military conflict with the U.S. on the South American continent. Beijing's priority is the integrity of its own trade and financial system, not the survival of a distant, volatile regime. The overarching threat of secondary sanctions, wielded relentlessly by Trump, ensures that the diplomatic support offered by these allies remains strictly rhetorical, preventing any tangible military or major financial assistance from reaching Caracas. They will watch the intervention, but they will not risk their own economic lifelines to save a partner who has become too risky. This profound isolation is the ultimate strategic blow to Maduro. It confirms that the threat of U.S. power, combined with the reality of his allies' self-interest, is an insurmountable barrier. The failure of Russia to protect its closest ally in the region serves as a chilling testament to its weakened global influence. The Venezuelan military, already struggling with corruption and a chronic lack of spare parts for its Russian-supplied arsenal, now knows that no reinforcements are coming.
Maduro is left to face the full weight of the U.S. military alone, reliant only on a demotivated, under-equipped army and a poorly trained civilian militia.
We have meticulously analyzed the components of Operation Southern Spear, from the military doctrine to the geopolitical isolation of the Maduro regime. Now we deliver the final, sweeping verdict on its true significance. A successful operation in Venezuela is Donald Trump's ultimate, calculated maneuver to solve his internal political vulnerabilities and unilaterally reassert U.S. dominance in the Western Hemisphere, fulfilling the promise that America will be great again. The power of this operation lies in its profound confluence of domestic and foreign policy objectives. For Trump, the military action is a necessary act of political self-affirmation. Faced with mounting domestic challenges and the perception of political gridlock, a swift, decisive victory against a non-nuclear, unpopular dictator like Maduro serves as the perfect antidote. It allows Trump to claim an immediate, tangible success, a victory against narco-terrorism and the plague of fentanyl that transcends complex political disputes and instantly bolsters his image as a powerful, decisive global leader. This strategic gambit effectively redirects attention from internal political vulnerabilities toward a dramatic demonstration of hard power. The external consequences are what truly elevate this operation to a strategic masterstroke. The successful removal of Maduro's regime and the subsequent access to Venezuela's colossal oil reserves deliver a dual, crushing blow to Trump's main geopolitical rivals. Firstly, it strikes directly at Vladimir Putin. The resulting collapse of global oil prices, driven by the massive new supply of Venezuelan crude, is a surgical maneuver designed to cut the financial throat of the Russian war machine. This accelerates the process of Russia's economic insolvency, ensuring that the war in Ukraine will become financially unsustainable and forcing Putin to confront the reality of American power in a way that sanctions alone could not. Secondly, the operation directly challenges the expanding influence of China and Iran in the South American hemisphere. For years, these rivals have used Maduro's regime as a strategic platform to expand their economic and military footprint near the U.S. border. The intervention instantly eliminates this hostile platform, sending an unambiguous message to Beijing and Moscow. The U.S. will no longer tolerate the presence of hostile proxies in its hemisphere. The successful enforcement of this new Monroe Doctrine through overwhelming force is the physical act of reclaiming regional authority. The ultimate conclusion is that the success of Operation Southern Spear is the fulfillment of a political mandate. It is a decisive move that transforms Trump's campaign rhetoric into military reality. The immediate result, the seizure of strategic oil reserves, the financial pressure on Putin, and the reassertion of U.S. dominance over its sphere of influence, serves as the validation of the promise that America will be great again. The operation is not just an intervention, it is a declaration that the U.S. is returning to a policy of muscular global engagement, enforcing its will unilaterally when deemed necessary.